Hello, Forecaster here again, and we are back for episode 51. And I have updated Pneumaticraft as well as Industrialcraft 2. So in Industrialcraft 2 there are mostly bug fixes. Amongst them are the fixed textures for the ore washing plant and the electric kinetic generator, which I made, are now in the latest build of Industrialcraft 2, which is great. So I have removed those textures from my custom resource pack, which is nice. Now in Pneumaticraft, we have something new. We have the logistics module, as well as the heat frame. And the heat frame is just a block that you can, or a frame similar to the logistics frames, you can put on blocks to allow them to react to heat or cold. So for example, you can put this on a furnace and then put a heat source nearby, like a lava block or a vortex tube, and you will be able to heat the furnace with, for example, pressure with a vortex tube, and smelt items. You can also cool things down. And for example, currently by default you can only freeze water buckets into ice blocks. But there's potential for more things in the future. What we're going to use though is the logistics module. It's a little bit of a hassle to craft, but I made 8 of them because for some reason, while I was making the regulator tubes, I thought that you only got one per recipe. For some reason. But so I have 8, which is good. Now, the logistics module is basically the same thing as a logistics drones, except not really. What they do is, if we have... so previously my refinery has had these fluid hoppers behind it, which have pulled the fluid out, and then the hoppers had the provider frames on them, which provided the fluids for the logistics drones to move around. Now, the reason the provider frames were not on the refinery itself was because I needed to have it covered either in covers or by the hoppers to prevent heat from escaping. But if I put the covers on the refinery itself, and the refinery is currently empty because I have allowed it to use up all the heat, and the remaining heat below the operating temperature has escaped because I removed the hoppers, which were acting as insulation. I have turned off the or I have this lever providing a permanent redstone signal here to keep the vortex tube from operating to generate more heat, which is just going to escape. So we have the logistics modules, or frames, on the refinery blocks, and they are providing the fluids. Currently there are no fluids to provide, so the drones aren't doing anything. Now we can put these logistics modules alright, we need to put them on tubes like this. So this logistics module is going to look at this block it's facing, and if it has a logistics frame, it's going to operate on this logistics frame as if it were a logistics drone. However, instead of taking the fluid and flying away, which it can't, it's going to provide whatever the frame is providing into the tube it's connected to. So the tubes make up a logistics network. Now this is a little annoying. I wish when you pointed at an end like this, it would replace that end instead of interpreting it as the side of the block. Would be a lot nicer. But I can do that. So if I now grab, I should have an extra storage frame here. These are set to gasoline, which I don't want. I want LPG. Then we put this storage frame here. So now this logistics module is going to provide LPG from this top tank here. And this is going to accept LPG because there is a storage frame that accepts LPG here. So this is going to send LPG to this module, which is going to put it into this tank. And I intend to do the same with the diesel and kerosene. So diesel is being provided by this bottom refinery block here, and kerosene is this one, I believe. No, it is this one. So if I put this here, then we can tie them together like that. Now this fluid hopper here accepts diesel, and it wants 8 buckets at a time. So if I remove this cover here, I can put a tube there, then put a logistics module against it like so, and I can put the cover back just to keep it pretty, sort of. Then I'll be able to do the same across here. Actually, can I put a... I can, nice. Then I can do the same for this one. So now instead of having the drones come and get the fluids, the logistic modules will transport them instead. And since they'll react pretty much instantly, they'll keep the drones from having to do anything. Well, actually, the drones won't be able to access these blocks anyway because they're now covered up from all sides by other blocks. The remainder will be the gasoline, and for that I will simply have a Railcraft tank, and we'll put it here, and I will use the provider frame I have here, which should not have any settings. Actually, that won't exactly work at all. No, I don't want to do that. What I need to do is put a default storage frame on this, which is made from lime green plastic, and set it to gasoline, because since the logistics modules can only see frames connected, or frames that are next to a logistics module, they will only be able to, this will be the only valid storage for gasoline. But the drones also see these storage frames over here, which accept gasoline, and the yellow storage frames have a higher priority than the green default storage frame, which means that when there is space here, they will want to move the gasoline away from this tank and into the main storage ones. But if there is no more space there, the gasoline will have to remain in this tank until there is more space. So that should work. However, I don't have the plastic at the moment to make a default storage frame. I am completely out of coal, I think. I've been using it to make plastic. No, actually I have coal. Nice. So I can make the frame. Let's do that. I'm going to have to get some more LPG from in here. That should fill this back up. Alright. It has no heat, so we're going to have to turn that back on, which should be fine because the blocks are covered back up. Yep. So this should start operating again. And then we should have 8 buckets of plastic. Put them in here. And I hope there is enough dye for this. Looks like just about enough, which is great. So now we can make a default storage frame. And we'll configure this for gasoline, and then we'll put that on here. Now, the logistics modules require 3 bars of pressure, which you can see if you look at them with Voila. So we're going to have to connect the tubes to a pressure network. So now we see them turning green, which means they're online. Blue means they're working. So now we see gasoline start to mosey on over to this tank here. So now we should have a slightly more efficient system with fewer drones zipping about over here. Turns out I made just the right amount of logistics modules without even intending to make that many to start with. However, I'm going to need a bunch more because I plan to make this wall here hold the LPG tanks. Now, one problem is this storage frame here is blocked by this logistics module, which means that the drones won't be able to reach this storage frame, which means they can't access this tank of LPG. There are two solutions to that. One is to make another storage frame and put it on the bottom to allow the drones to access this tank. However, what are you doing here? Go away. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shorten the tank by 1 block, put the storage frame there instead, then put the tube on top, like so, and put the module above the tank like that, and then connect it back up. And that's going to deplete the pressure for a bit while it equalizes. So now the logistics module is accessing one side of the frame, and this side is open for the drones. And the reason I need to do that is because these fluid compressors here require LPG to run, and it's the drone's job to keep them supplied. As you can see, they are fetching gasoline from this tank here, I think. I could probably provide this tank as well, or rather the hopper underneath, because this is outputting kerosene, I think. Diesel goes into kerosene, yeah. And the kerosene is just getting dumped into this which is really something the drones don't need to do. So all I need really is another logistics module, and I need to put it next to the fluid hopper down here, because the logistics module can connect to any logistics module that is on the same tube line. So since the tubes are connected to down here, this logistics module would be able to provide kerosene to this one here, which would be excellent. Now, the cost for transporting things, these can also transport items, by the way, just like the drones. The longer the distance that something gets traveled, the more air it will cost to transport it. And that is just something you'll have to keep in mind when you use these. So you can use them for longer distances, but it will be more expensive. Since I'm using them for a very short distance, it shouldn't be too bad at all, I hope. we're going to make another set of logistics modules. To complete the system. So I'm going to we need 4 compressed iron ingots for that, and we need 2 for that, so we really only need 6. And then we're going to wait for a little bit, and then I've removed the compressed iron from this filter. So to extract it, I'm going to switch it to the empty text-based filters. Then we need 2 of these. And then I'm going to need 4 levers. So I need 2 planks for sticks. And then we make 4. And then we make 4 levers and put them like that. And then we take that and put it like that. And now we only need 4 black plastic to complete it. So hopefully I have the dies to make that. That's our 4 plastic there. And then we put it in here. Nope. We've run out of blue and green, which is fine. I have more of those. I have, however, run out of poppies, which means I have no more red dye. So that is one of the things I'm going to have to acquire. Go on an expedition to find. That should do it. Then we will craft these. Oh, I forgot to take the plastic, didn't I? Yep. I am silly. Well, not really, just forgetful, which is equally awful. Right, so now I can remove this tank here, and I should be able to put the logistics module. I can do it while shift clicking, that's a little annoying. And then I can put the provider frame on there. Actually, let's remove that for now. This doesn't have enough heat to work yet. I could really put one on, do the same thing for this side, because, well, just because, really. To make it cleaner, because then I can cover up these holes in the floor. Which will make things look a little nicer. I'm going to make this face downwards just because. Whoops. So these really need to... The system needs a lot more heat before those will be able to do anything. Currently the refinery is using the heat. I could... could turn this valve off, but it will still be a little bit before the refinery runs out of oil. We are getting close to the end of the episode, unfortunately. But I'm pretty happy with this. It looks a lot cooler than the fluid hoppers at the very least. And it seems to be working very well. So I'm going to clear out some space for a couple of more tanks. I am going to need more storage frames, and I will probably even have the tanks extending into the floor. Because I can't really have them extend upwards. So these are not blinking, as you can see, because they're not able to request anything, or they don't know what to request because there are no storage frames on these tanks. So, alright. I will be back when the refinery has run out of oil and the temperature has built up enough for the processing plants to start working. So I'll see you shortly. Alright, so the refinery has finally run out of oil. The temperature is increasing quickly. So now the pneumatic processing plants will start working, and the product will be pulled down into the fluid hoppers, and we'll let it build up a little bit. Not really for any reason, just because it's easier to see what happens when there is more of it. So that should do. See a blue square. And now when I put the provider frame on here, it gets removed by the logistics modules, and the same thing on this side. And there we are. So now I can remove these side covers here that were mostly for to make sure the drones didn't get stuck down there. And now I can get 4 of these stone bricks and put them in here. And the floor is whole once again. So this will do. So now the this entire refinery system is entirely self-contained and doesn't rely on the drones at all. And the only contact points for the drones are this tank here and these tanks here. Well, this tank only currently, because the other ones still don't have frames. But that will do. These tanks are actually full. If I really wanted to, I could move these frames over here. We can make room for another tank, although I don't have any more logistics frames yet. So if we put frames on here, right, the refinery is not running. So we get the refinery going again. We should be able to watch. Alright, that was a little weird. This one got 48 buckets the first tick for some reason. Right, but just as you can see, it's putting the LPG in the tank that is closest, the first one. Once this is full, it should start filling this one, and then finally this one. So it's distance based, just like with the drones. Although I'm assuming it's following the tubes, it's not. I'm not actually sure about that. It may be the actual distance, regardless of the tubes. But anyway, this should be the end point of the episode. And is this... Are you stuck? You're probably stuck, aren't you? Come on. Dang drones. Alright, so yeah, we've reached the end point of the episode. So I will see you. Okay. I'll see you next time. My drones are weird.